People don't really believe that they're in the city sometimes when they come here because we're a big forest. We have a new master plan for our entire 300-acre campus to inspire meaningful connections between people and nature. At the Schuylkill Center, we do a wide variety of educational programming that essentially tries to introduce people of any age to nature and the environment. There are families who come because they want to introduce their kids to nature. There are adults who come because there's programs that we do. But now we have this whole art program, so people who are interested in what cutting-edge art is want to come to a nature center to see where this is heading.
We're re-envisioning how art can be created and shown and experienced at the Schuylkill Center. The direction that we're going in with our environmental art program is to find ways to create hybrid projects where art is working with restoration and with education to create projects that provide the same kind of artistic experience but also are doing something to intervene and help support the health of the ecosystem here.
Stormwater is one of the biggest environmental issues, both in cities and suburbs. We've short-circuited the water cycle. Water rains, hits a hard surface, goes into a storm drain, and right into a river. As a nature center, we should be the model for stewardship of the environment. So we actually have 3 different solutions. We put cisterns in that collect water that we send into a pond. We have this living roof where the water is essentially absorbed by a sponge. And Rainyard is a 3rd solution.
The Rainyard project is sort of our pilot project in this new way of working. It will serve as a demonstration of the kind of way an art project can work with science and design and engineering to serve the health of the ecosystem, be an artwork, and be an educational tool. I immediately thought of Stacy Levy because she does a lot of work with water. So we reached out to her to come for a visit and we talked about the project.
I'm an artist, sometimes called an eco-artist, because of the kind of work I do, which is about the environment. Sometimes it's just about the environment, and sometimes it's actually trying to do something to help the environment. My feeling about nature centers is they're the first place that gets to deal with environmental issues before a homeowner or a business owner is ever going to get to it. So it's kind of the responsibility of nature centers to make a point to work well with their environment. And one of the things that happens here in nature is rain. We get about a yard of rain, and it's got to have a place to go. Putting one of these things together is not a straightforward, like artists in their studio kind of thing. I can't wake up in the morning and make this by the afternoon. It's something you have to plan out with everybody. Everyone has to be on board. We always put water in a tiny tube and let people walk everywhere. And this is saying, okay, hey, let's put the people in the small tube and let the rain walk everywhere and the landscape go everywhere. The concept is you are floating your visitors over the forest floor and they're looking down, and meanwhile it's also drinking the water there, and all sorts of things are happening because this area in the center is more wet, or wherever we base the wetter part. The wetter portion could be there too. This area in here, skip the blue flag, needs to be something that if this water is going to be played around with, it can't be a muddy surface, so it needs to be this sort of staging area. I like this idea that this is kind of like an outdoor living room here, and you can lie down on it and watch the sky and see the leaves moving.
An artist can bring these interpretive tools and create a different kind of experience than one has with just the land itself. We're re-envisioning how art can be created and shown and experienced at the Schuylkill Center, and we brought together this team to advise us and to create a plan and a new set of goals towards what we want to accomplish here. So the team is made up of environmental artists, curators, and academics who have worked in a collaborative way with different fields, with science, with architecture, with landscape design.
When we say that we are an urban environmental education center, are we saying that we happen to teach nature inside the city limit, and that makes us an urban environmental education center? Or are we teaching how energy, water, food flows through city systems? And I think our tendency has been to skew mostly to nature study and just happens to be in the city, as opposed to let's teach you how energy flows through a city. And I think that's a really interesting piece that I'd love to begin exploring.
This is the first time I've actually been here. It seems quite a unique spot to have this planning process where they figure out ways to implement projects that have tremendous potential.
I don't know that I even know of any other process that's existed like this. You know, thinking about what can a nature center be for an artist, and how does that translate into both art projects and the art practice and this idea of collaborative space or nature center as laboratory.
For me, it's less about thinking about art as an object that can inspire change, but more so about how artists think and how designers think and how scientists think.
I think we're going to be seeing a lot of very exciting hybrids and new ideas bubbling up, and the opportunity to really test them out in a real world setting. And that's, I think, what the Schuylkill Center offers. Okay.
So what we're doing here after about a year and a half of planning is to actually put the footings in of this platform, which hovers above the rain garden. This is what you're going to be standing on, walking on, hanging out on, above the kind of mushy rain garden. We've had the amazing help of Reese & Company out here for multiple work weekends, cutting steel, putting footers in, digging footers, putting concrete footings, welding this whole mesh structure on, down to welding the edges. They've really been like steel tailors. When someone comes now to this area, they'll walk into the garden and they'll walk onto a kind of bluish purplish metal mesh platform, basically like a dock that hovers over, instead of hovering over water, it's hovering over vegetation. The rain garden's going to be underneath. You can see the depression where the rain garden is going to be planted. That will actually fill with rain right after a storm, and they become two small ponds, and then the water slowly infiltrates and gets soaked into the soil. But they will remain green, and some of that green will be poking through that the mesh that's over the top that the people are walking on.
Instead of trying to cram kids' heads with knowledge about nature and the environment and expect them to then love it, we just want to immerse them in nature and the outdoors. It's a big, bright, beautiful attraction that kids will find unbelievably compelling. It's a blue swirling slide with water coming down it. So when a teacher gets a class in front of that, they're not going to want to leave because, it's water and you can manipulate it and it's colorful.
These are great places to start this dialogue of how do you live more happily and more in concert with nature.
This project is really meant to be the beginning of a new direction in our art program's lifetime. It will serve as a demonstration of how an art project can work with science and design and engineering to serve the health of the ecosystem, be an artwork, and be an educational tool.
These troughs are all about comparing the materials that we have in our world, the fabric of the outdoors, and how they absorb rainwater, whether or not they're a good home for rainwater. Really, the greatest thing would be if someone said, "It's raining, let's go to the Schuylkill Center," because we got to see that gutter in action.
Videotaping us live.